and it builds a live CD for you. And you could add other repos to it and give it all the codecs if you wanted. That's what I would recommend.
Is it reasonable to do that if I want to install it for one single person, or do you think, because the first thing when you say I'm going to create my own distributions, I'm thinking, oh, that's probably going to take a bit of a time to burn the CD and to trying to test that, and then when I report an issue, it might have some conflicts to do with the fact that I installed my own custom packages or something. Is it reasonable to do for one person? So let's say I want to install it for my dad. Is it reasonable to go through this path to giving him a distribution that I give him a CD and I say, well, if you have an issue, just install this thing again?
Yeah, I think if you're just doing it for one person, go for Fusion Linux, because it's built off of Fedora, but I don't think you're going to be just doing it for one person. I think you're going to be trying to spread the word, and if you have your own version of it, you could give it out and get people using it.
What's Fedora's approach towards what's the attitude towards the project Fusion? Is it kind of seen as because I know Red Hat has had this sort of love-hate relationship with CentOS, and I think one thing they try to say in defense of the project is that it sort of allows them to get to people who would otherwise not pay for Red Hat, and it kind of puts them on the path of trying to ensure that the people who would not have paid anyway basically get to use enterprise Linux. What's the approach towards Fusion? Because I think one of the things it might do is for people who don't adhere to the principles of Fedora, they might get exposed to the base of Fedora and use the same tools or use some of the same settings and tools and everything else. Would it not be kind of beneficial if a person was to use that instead of different distributions or something proprietary altogether, like Windows?
I haven't heard anything negative against Fusion from anyone, so I don't know that at all, but personally I don't like the fact that it includes TeamViewer.
What does TeamViewer do? I heard about it before, but could you just explain
it's a proprietary VNC client server program. You can use it for remote desktops, and it's being justified because that it can punch through your firewall. It uses NAT traversal, so an end user doesn't have to set it up on their firewall to open a port. And he believes that's a better trade-off than freedom. There's so many VNC clients out there, so many remote desktops that you can use. It's laughable.
Is there anything else about is this just a specific symbolic example, or is this just one of the main sticking points with the distribution?
It's just one of those extra features they're adding. I've been following their blog on Planet Fedora, and they're always talking about adding different things. But one of the things I do like is the fact that they're replacing their default CD burner with K3B, which is a KDE program. So I like that.
Even for GTK side, the GNOME side?
Yeah, their GNOME side has it. They replaced Brasero with it.
All right, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, it is.
I
like that.
I think we actually improved in terms of trying to get people off the proprietary. I mean, people usually say, things get worse over time, but I think we're actually fortunate enough to say we've improved a great deal, because I'm not sure about SAP as a protocol for communication in voice over IP, but I know we improved in terms of codecs, and we very soon will have WebM, and we already have OGG spreading to a certain extent on the internet. And we've just heard about Silverlight. Pretty much people will probably not be happy with me saying dying, but it's basically very symbolically they keep it alive because Windows Phone 7 kind of depends on it, so they have to do something about it. But it's basically kind of crashing, so the whole RAA type of scene of Microsoft is going up in flame, and I think Flash is already quite concerned because people start to use, even on YouTube now, they start to use WebM, and LAFSF is promoting these instructional pages on how to use a WebM on YouTube, and that in turn actually worries the trolls who basically run MPGLA, because they threaten to replace many of those proprietary dependencies, some of the worst things, the things you talked about before, installing MP3 things, and MP3 software playback codecs, etc. And
Yeah.
and another issue is the GPUs, and over time I think we get more and more code for more drivers and more hardware. I think we only improve in that sense, and I think from that point of view, I think Fedora will have things done easier. I know that in previous versions of Fedora you couldn't get 3D drivers out of the box because they wouldn't be free ones, and I know they now have. Do you happen to know any of the details about 3D with entirely free software in Fedora 14?
Yeah, they're still using the Nouveau driver, which keeps getting updated and adding new features, and it's going to get a lot better very soon.
Have you had a chance to use that, or is this the one you currently use, or use
I use Nouveau on my desktop, but I use the proprietary driver on my laptop because it gets hot, because the power management isn't quite up there yet.
I think I'm not entirely sure, but I think lots of the people who are using at least Fedora at the moment, I don't think many of them play games. I mean, it might be kind of presumptuous to say that, but as long as you don't play any, I suppose now on the desktop, you're
Nouveau will play games.
Yeah, I think one of the issues with the free drivers, people will say it doesn't give you quite the same performance as the binary driver.
Yeah, but it's getting up there. It'll be as good or better.
If I were to use, say, desktop effects and things like KWin or Compies and things like that, would it be reasonably okay that I won't be able to tell the difference and the rendering is going to be completely smooth, even with just free software and something that works out of the box without having to download any blob from the internet? Or
yeah, I would say so. I use desktop effects at school without any proprietary drivers at all, and on my desktop I use it, no proprietary drivers. My laptop, I use it with proprietary drivers, and it doesn't seem any faster than it does on any of the other machines I run it on.
what would you? I'm wondering. I'm trying to think if other distributions actually have the same packaging of free drivers. I mean, I'll just give you my impression is that Fedora has been pretty much leading in the sense that it was trying to put the drivers in. I know that Adam Williamson, was this his name? Sorry.
Yeah, that's his name.
Adam W. something. He's been working and he's been doing these kind of tests, fests and stuff like that, trying to approach the goal of getting the 3D to work out of the box with as many cards as possible for people using Fedora. And I just, this is one of the areas when I'm pretty excited about Fedora, because they were always pretty consistent in their desire to avoid the untestable drivers where you just basically throw a blob onto the kernel or onto the kernel space and hope things work okay.
Yeah, and I think if I recall correctly, ATI is next to start getting some love from them, because it was first Intel and then it was NVIDIA, and ATI was the third one that they wanted to work on. So we should see some ATI improvements soon.
If I were to buy a laptop now or desktop or something for use with Fedora, which card should I go for? Which one would give me the best performance and be easiest to work with?
I would probably stick with Intel or NVIDIA. Intel, if you don't mind if you're not a big gamer, but if you're a big gamer, I'd probably still pick NVIDIA.
All right. Yeah. And is there any plan? That's probably one of the. If a person wasn't too interested in downloading Fedora, and maybe somebody wants to buy a gift for a member of the family with Fedora installed, is there any way of getting Fedora pre-installed on perhaps in Canada or in the United States or in any of the places to get Fedora pre-installed on a computer?
Not that I've seen, but there's plenty of places where you can buy just a blank machine that you could put it on yourself.
Would it be easy to do for a? Would it be if you had this experience of having to do that?
Installing Fedora on a blank machine is pretty easy.